had to have been a freaking baseball size piece of hail. This back glass was shattered out. There's so much on this guy here. Perhaps though, the saddest sight isn't the Tacoma here, isn't the Tundra, but this right here. A freaking bowling ball landed on this Tacoma here. Oh my God. There's easily 50 to 70 different sizable dings all around the entire exterior of the vehicle. The back glass is gonna be bashed out. What in the world? That just looks like someone came here with a baseball bat. As luck should have it, we have a vehicle here to compare to. We have all of our new vehicle inventory, newer vehicles here with a little bit cheaper aluminum and body panels here compared to the old trusty here, 1990 GMC Jimmy, which a lot of steel involved in this. I wouldn't expect this to be so vulnerable right here on the bend of it. I'd expect a little bit more rigidity to that. Look at that. Whole back glass. Absolutely awful. Through the paint here on the crown. They will file claims on all of these vehicles. That does beg the question, as they file those claims, will each of these vehicles now have a hail damage report on their Carfax history? And a lot of them right on body lines. Just like this is a pain to get out and make perfect again. So these vehicles, for the most part, they're never going to be perfect again. They're never going to be the same as they were brand new. YouTube, Untamed here. We had a pretty freak storm roll through Cheyenne, Wyoming the other day, and well, a result of that was so many of the local dealerships here in town received tons and tons of hail damage to their vehicle inventory. In today's video, I'm going to highlight some of the damage that these dealerships took. I'll highlight the worst of it, at least seemingly, and really talk through what happens next. What do the dealerships do from this point on? Do they just pull insurance claims and try to fix it? Do they offer these for sale as is to the public? Let's talk through those options in today's video when, well, hail breaks loose. Let me show you some of the saddest sights, to me anyway. Obviously, nearly every single vehicle at this dealership lot has been affected by the hailstorm. And we're talking baseball size pieces of hail falling from the sky. It was pretty awful. And well, this vehicle here, the Chevy SS, I really like this vehicle. Nice V8 underneath the hood. It's kind of a niche vehicle, but if you know, you know. And this really is a pretty sad sight to see. Look at that. You can tell it was pretty awful, the hail that came through town. And so many dealerships were affected by it. Obviously, I'm at my local Ford dealership now, but gosh, it's pretty awful to see. Every single vehicle has dozens and dozens of these pretty large dents all throughout these vehicles. Many of them actually have their sunroofs cracked out and bashed in. And well, obviously windshields too, unfortunately. Look at that. You know, the size of that had to have been a freaking baseball size piece of hail falling from the sky. Imagine that hitting you. So obviously it isn't something going to run out and try to move vehicle inventory as it's beginning to happen. It's not worth your own safety. So you just got to let it happen and then begin to lean on insurance. Between sunroofs and tail lights, well, you can tell here that the back glass was bashed in on this particular Jeep here. Let's see how bad the Raptor got it. Looks like maybe some up here. Yep. Yeah, a number on these kind of more vulnerable spots. The fender flares actually on Raptors are a bit stronger, a little bit more of a composite material, which is nice. But always get it up on the doors, of course. But lots of back glass and, of course, sunroofs taking the brunt of it. Here we have a Bronco Sport. This too had its sunroof taken out, unfortunately. And of course, dozens and dozens of dents on the hood and on the doors. Obviously, every single dealership in town has insurance, which includes hail insurance, hail coverage, right? And as I look at the damage on many of these vehicles here, it is likely something that they're gonna have to pull claims on the bulk of their inventory. Nearly every single vehicle. I haven't seen a single vehicle yet that hasn't taken at least a handful of dings, sizable dings to it. So they will file claims on all of these vehicles. That does beg the question, as they file those claims, will each of these vehicles now have a hail damage report on their Carfax history? More often than not, the answer is no. It really does depend state to state, is what I'm reading, is what I've learned. But in this case, as the dealership pulls one universal claim on the entire lot, it likely won't affect every single individual VIN number here. Now, like anything, it really does depend. It depends on the magnitude of the damage on the vehicle. Like many of these vehicles with the front windshields and the back glass bashed in, the tail lights cracked out, on top of that, having a number of sizable dents in it, that likely will trigger an independent Carfax report on that vehicle, citing minor damage, minor to moderate damage based on hail. So I'm looking at each of these vehicles here. I'm trying to find one that maybe has a sizable amount less comparatively to another option. Maybe trying to find a vehicle that maybe is a little bit more or a little less susceptible to hail damage. But it appears that every single truck that I see, the entire back end, with the exception of the Raptor with the larger fender flares, is seemingly having pretty bad damage on the back end here. Of course, this is a Chevy Silverado ZR2, not a cheap truck, ladies and gentlemen. This is easily mid $60,000 price point range here, and a ton of dents on that. The Honda Civic here, I mean, much of these are made out of the same material nowadays, stamped aluminum, of course. Very minimal amounts of steel being leveraged in these vehicles. Tons and tons on the Honda Civic here, perhaps as you'd imagine, of course. Let's see how the Tundra fared. I'm spotting, well, quite a bit. You probably can't see too many on the camera, of course, but we have a lot down here, pretty big ones down on the lower end. Plenty up on the fender. Man, it's just a sad sight. Even the Tundra doesn't deserve this, ladies and gentlemen. Even the Tundra with this twin turbo V6. Plenty on the roof, of course. Looks like a back glass was shattered on this one, at least based on the plastic out back. I didn't even notice that. Look at this kahuna. Yikes. The Jeep Grand Cherokee here. And perhaps I don't need to tell you this, but whenever a dent or ding takes place on a body line, an existing body line of a vehicle, it becomes more difficult to remove. So a body shop or a PDR, paintless dent repair shop, will have a harder time removing something if it were right here on the line comparatively to something right here, if that makes sense. So stuff like this, of course, you'll need a whole new trim piece for stuff like that. You know, as I walk the lot, it appears that a lot of the new vehicle inventory, at least here at Ford, are moved. They're not here, sitting here. Normally they're lining up. So they might have given them priority to move them to one of their lots or one of their warehouses. Plenty here on the GMC Sierra 2500. Let's see how all the Tacomas and new Tundras over here and the 4Runner fare. Looks like, of course, we have this back glass was shattered out. Look at this. There's so much on this guy here. Man, hate to see it, I really do. Even cracked the windshield here. Big ones up top, as you can imagine. Gosh, plenty here on the Tacomas. I mean, we're talking probably 30 to 40 just on the hood here. If you're going to be having them all around the vehicle, it easily turns into a $5,000 to $8,000 job real quickly just with these moderate sized ones. Once you get the huge ones in there, that ups the price tag substantially. Yeah, this one took out the windshield too on this Tacoma with the iForce Max. Now I'm hopeful that taking out the insurance claim for all the vehicles here isn't extremely detrimental to the dealership's ability to maintain the insurance. Because you know, like for you and I, when we take out an insurance claim on our personal vehicles, that tends to have an adverse effect on our coverage moving forward and the cost of our premiums moving forward. Holy cow. Holy freaking cow. Look at that. It is a freaking bowling ball landed on this Tacoma here. Oh my God. Of course, the windshield all shattered out. I'm a good friend with the general manager here. He's a great guy, so I'm hopeful this is something they can recover from without too much headache. I mean, you can't control it. It's Mother Nature at the end of the day. Obviously, the one way to maybe get around it is when you start installing those covers. You know, you see them on occasion at dealerships where bad weather frequents them, but that's a huge expense, of course, getting covers for all of your inventory. Every single one of them has the cracked windshield here. Every single one. Like, what in the world? That just looks like someone came here with a baseball bat. You know, I understand some of you guys don't like the Tacoma. I don't like it either, but you don't take a bat to it, for the love of God. Well, let me just kind of walk the line here. See if I can spot any. Definitely, you know, it's not even, I wouldn't expect on this bend of this hood, I wouldn't expect this to be so vulnerable right here on the bend of it. I'd expect a little bit more rigidity to that, but same exact spot compared to the Terra one over there. Huge dent there. Big spot there. Windshield. Man, it is gnarly. People are posting pictures all over the local Facebook pages of, no kidding, baseball-sized hail, holding them up, picking up their entire hand. So I hope nobody here, of course, was injured or hurt as they're maybe trying to move some vehicles in advance. But no vehicle, of course, is worth your safety. No matter how much you love them, how much they cost, it is just money at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. They're just things and they can be replaced. And that's why you have insurance, right? Hopefully you have a reasonable deductible, of course, making it not so earth-shattering to pay that and take care of your vehicle, but it is just money and they're just things. I will say this, and I mean it. My neighbor has this pretty old Volvo, an old Volvo. I'm talking maybe like a mid-90s Volvo. And that thing, it endured the same exact storm, and I haven't spotted a single dent on the entire thing. I'm not even kidding. It was out in it, and it didn't take a dent. And that might just be a clear testament of the quality of materials being used nowadays comparatively to back then, right? We put a little bit more steel, a little bit more rigidity involved in all the body panels, whereas nowadays, man, they're just interested in pumping these cheap throwaway vehicles out. Pump out as many as they possibly can, shine them up the best they can with the nicest paint job, and get them out the door. But they're not so tough. Look at that. This Prius took a beating here in the end. Man, whole back glass. Absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. Same here, of course, for the Toyota Crown. Brand new one here. Let's sport back to the wagon version of the Crown. Look at that. Through the paint here on the Crown. And even when you have that protective film, you probably can't even see it, but here's the line on the protective film here. Even with the protective film, you're still getting beat up. So don't think that you have any kind of invincibility cloak with a film on it. GR86 here, plenty of love on that one. Looks like a Camry here, cracked out windshield. Hate to see it. Man, everywhere I look at the Toyota dealership, it's just more and more carnage. Absolutely sickening how badly damaged these vehicles are. Look at this. I mean, BMW X7 here. This is not a cheap car. And well, all over it, it is peppered with sizable dents and dings, especially this hood. Wow. Looks like you got into a head-on collision and a head bumped that windshield there. Perhaps, though, the saddest sight isn't the Tacoma here, isn't the Tundra, but this right here. Here we have a 2024 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro with a very sad amount of damage on it. Check this out. The whole hood completely peppered, and of course the windshield busted with a few sizable baseballs popping this one, it appears. Even down the side, unfortunately, onto the door and the back panel. Normally this back rear quarter panel, generally speaking on most vehicles, is pretty vulnerable to hail on most vehicles. So that's a very common spot for these to be peppered and beat up extra. Of course, we've got some on the hood, of course, and more out back. The price tag on this was just under $60,000 used, and I think it had 19,000 miles, let's double check. 17,500 miles on it. They wanted just under 60 grand, which MSRP on this back in 2024 was about 57, maybe 56,000. So these are becoming more desirable, but Not anymore. Not after this kind of damage, and you'd be lucky to get somewhere in the mid-40s for it at this point. And it might go without saying, but whenever there's broken glass on a vehicle, like the back glass here, the windshields, of course, the dealership is going to repair them. They're going to replace them. It's a safety concern, of course, for anybody who might buy that vehicle. So they will likely fix those, but I'm not so sure. With the abundance of dings that the vast majority of these vehicles have, I wonder if they will send them through a shop for PDR, paintless dent repair. Normally speaking, whenever I see a hail sale performed by a dealership, there's only really a handful of dents and dings. So I do believe that the vast majority of these here perhaps have too much damage to even warrant a hail sale. In fact, the vast majority of these here will likely teeter toward being totaled out by an insurance company. So if a vehicle's totaled out, it then becomes a salvage or a rebuilt title if it is repaired, and then that's an opportunity for this dealership to send it through auction, sell it only through auction at that point, and they will sell it as such. They're going to sell it with a salvage or rebuilt title after being repaired, or sell it as is only through auction at that point. And they're selling it through auction after having cashed in, of course, on their insurance claim. So they're not just cutting it loose and losing a ton of money on these vehicles. They're being supplemented, of course, by the insurance company, the insurance claim. Let's see how the Super Duty lineup withstood the majority of the damage here. So lots of dings, of course, same materials compared to the F-150s, of course, for the most part. It appears we've got some broken back glass on this particular one here. You can see the plastic out back, and just dozens and dozens of dings, and a lot of them right on body lines. Just like this is a pain to get out and make perfect again. So these vehicles, for the most part, they're never going to be perfect again. They're never going to be the same as they were brand new. And that needs to be taken into account, of course, come time to sell them. Like repairs like this. This is a huge pain in the rear and dang near impossible to fix this without swapping out the entire roof panel. So this one here will likely be a total loss. So you guys tell me, what is a worthwhile discount on, let's say, this F-150 behind me? This is an XLT trim with an MSRP right about $63,000. There's easily 50 to 70 different sizable dings all around the entire exterior of the vehicle. The back glass is going to be bashed out. They'll likely repair that at very least. But with all these dings on it, what do you think is an appropriate discount for you to actually consider buying a truck like this? Is it 50% off? Paying $32,000 for this, would that make it worth it to you? If you're going to take this to a shop and you're going to pay cash out of pocket, you're easily looking at a price tag probably just under $10,000 to repair the entire vehicle. Really depends on who you go through, of course. If you go through your own insurance, well, that price tag magically goes up to $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 if you're not paying cash. Let's see how the Ford Maverick fared. Well, right through the paint, right through the clear coat, right through the primary paint, straight to the bare metal on this one. Easily 20, 25 dings on the hood just by itself, cracked windshield. Well, it fared just like the rest of them, I'm afraid. Time out for a second. I'm gonna geek out with you on this Ford Maverick here. I've actually never seen the Ford Maverick Lobo edition. Look at these wheels. More like Cholo edition. Check that out. I actually kind of like it. I joke around, but it actually looks pretty unique. And all the blacked out accents up front, little cheese grater grill up front, blacked out headlights. This is something else. Lobo, I've never seen this before. MSRP, $42,345. Probably can't see it with the reflection here, but how about that? And well, unfortunately, the Lobo took plenty of damage as well. Check this out, this is a Ford Bronco Sport. Even so many of these, their side view mirrors were all cracked and beat up. Pretty wild. A taste of what the Ford Bronco Sports went through, and we'll look at the big body Broncos here in a second. Man, just all the hoods completely demolished. Really, you get to a point where it behooves you to actually swap out the entire panel in pieces, right? The fenders, whatever, like this right here. This is probably wiser to just replace the entire fender here comparatively to try to fix that particular bit there. You guys tell me. If you've been in the business working a while, I've gone through a number of claims myself and worked with a number of PDR, paintless dent repair companies. And just sometimes the price on repairing these vehicles just doesn't make sense. Look at this. Ford Explorer here took a huge baseball right to the glass. Well, walked right by this one here too. Absolutely mind-blowing. So it's a shame to see dealerships, they go through this, right? I mean, and they understand that this is always a possibility. Have some big body Broncos here. Interesting. Even the hard plastic, hopefully you can see it, the hard plastic here on top, the roof of the Bronco here, broken in. Kind of wild. Wow. Hailstorms like this are going to take out anything to some degree, maybe unless you're a mid-90s Volvo, but the vast majority of vehicles nowadays are just, you know, you get a lesser product. They're cheaper vehicles and they're just not made to last in general, right? You don't get these stronger body parts, these real bumpers, steel material, because that all cost more. Whatever they can build these with to save the most amount of money, to maximize their profit margin, that's it. Let's face it, guys. Got a couple Expeditions over here that received the same fate, even down here on the fender, and the Tremor F-150. Pretty sad. Even the street sweeper over here, it took a good amount of love. Wonder what that discount's going to be now. And I gotta admit, guys, these Ford Transit vans seemingly have a lot less damage on all the body panels. They do have some, don't get me wrong, but a lot less. And none of them, with these giant windshields and giant side glass here, none of them took a crack or any kind of real shatter. Look at this. So something needs to be said about the Ford Transit van when it comes to just the overall rigidity of it, and of course, the strength of these windshields. That's impressive. Well, here's a sight to make a grown man cry. This is a Ford Super Duty F-250 King Ranch here with that glorious high output 6.7 liter Power Stroke engine, $101,000 MSRP. And well, it took plenty of dings. Thankfully though, it was on this side of the Transit van, and I think it kind of helped shield and protect much of the side over here. I think it, well, so you could tell that only once you get back to the tail light are you receiving some larger substantial damage. And while you can see the larger, or the other Super Duties here are actually taking more damage to their back ends comparatively to this one. So this one here, I think it kind of was unscathed on the back end anyway, and seemingly on this side, all thanks to Big Johnny over here. But plenty on the hood, unfortunately. These fender flares here on the dualies, well, this is living proof of it right here. These actually don't have any dings in them whatsoever. So you don't have that sheet of aluminum like you do here on the side for the bed. So of course you do have the opportunity to go to a dealership that has been struck by hail like this and make offers on vehicles. You can do that. Nothing's preventing you from doing that. But sometimes the dealership will do a bulk claim on all of their inventory. So they will sometimes actually kind of put a hold on all their inventory until that insurance claim is totally settled. So keep that in mind. You're still able to go offer, and perhaps, you know, they're able to sell onesies and twosies here and there, especially if there's not a ton of damage on it. I think they're more likely to sell them, but why not? It's worth a shot. You can ask them, see what they say. Now I'm verifying, but yeah, every single dually fender flare out back here on all the dualies, all the Super Duties, none of them have any dings whatsoever in these flares here. So definitely a different composite, a stronger composite comparatively to a sheet of aluminum. This F-150 here has a ton of damage, but something unique to this one that I haven't seen on any of them is shattered door sill panel right here. This gloss black here panel on most F-150s shattered out through the inside of the vehicle. So that's the only one I've seen that one on anyway. Interesting, yeah. And out back, I mean, it's just an indicator, I mean, how brittle these vehicles really are at the end of the day. If you live in a city where natural disasters take place semi-frequently, or freak storms like this hailstorm here, you have likely seen the storm chasers. The storm chasers that come in after the storm has already kind of ripped through a city or a town, and they will knock on your door to door, to try to get to sell you a service, whether it's to fix or repair your roof or try to fix your vehicles. They'll post up at the local mall, dent repair companies, and just try to capitalize on it. If there's a dollar to be made, well, those storm chasing companies, they'll be there. My personal experience, unless it's for maybe a small little door ding here and there, minor things, it's always best to go through a local company who knows your market and who can actually be there if you have further questions later on. I'm talking 6-7 months down the road, some other issue arises with that original damage, you can pick up the phone or just drive to that establishment and speak to them. And not to mention, if they're local to you, the chances of them wanting to earn your repeat business and develop a positive relationship with you and that rapport, that goes up substantially, and that's worth it in and of itself. And guys, I will use this as an opportunity to plug the importance of going through a local, reputable shop for your repair on your vehicle, whether it's mechanical or cosmetic. I think it's important to do your homework, do your own research, and don't just go through the shop that your insurance or the insurance is recommending you go through. Keep in mind, most insurance companies are monopolized. They're controlled by the same 3 or 4 groups, really driving all of it. So it's a little kind of a corrupt system if you look at it. But if you do your own homework, do your own research, and develop that rapport with your own local, reputable shop, it will serve you very well. I did that personally. Admittedly, the day after I bought my Ford Raptor here, a little bit of a hailstorm rolled in. Nothing quite like what I showed you today, of course, but there were a few little dings and dents on my Raptor here. It hurt my soul. It hurt me to the core to see those little dents and dings on my roof and on the hood, but there weren't that many, and thankfully, I had a pretty good relationship with Wyodent here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So if you happen to be in Cheyenne or nearby, or even northern Colorado, I certainly recommend them. This isn't a paid promotion by any means, but I work with Eddie here. I have a good relationship with him. He's always treated me very well, very professional, and does a bang-up job on taking care of my vehicle. So quick shout out to Eddie and the importance of going through a reputable local shop. I'll put some of his websites in the video description if you're interested in checking out some of the work that he does. I think you'll be very impressed. Now, you'll hear different things depending on who you talk to, but most folks that I have talked to and I have worked with, whenever they've gone through their insurance company for hail damage, if it was PDR, paintless dent repair, and no additional body work was required, they didn't experience having that reported to their Carfax history report. I have also seen hail damage on Carfax history report, so I know it is something that is reported, but if it's PDR only and it's not catastrophic, I would wager that more often than not, it's not going to be reported to your Carfax history. In my personal experience, I've always spent out of pocket for it. I paid cash for it, and thankfully, the damage that I've received for hail has always been really minimal, very minimal, so it never costed too much for me. It never costed an arm and a leg, but if it started teetering toward $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, I of course would pull my insurance claim for it. Now, in my personal opinion, it makes sense to pay cash out of pocket if you have a new vehicle and the value is still high on it. You know, I'm talking over $50,000, your value of your vehicle. To me, it makes more sense to pay cash, pay out of pocket if you're able to prevent any opportunity of a Carfax history report blemish. Because spending $2,000, $2,500 cash out of pocket will save you more than that on the resale and residual value of your vehicle. And I mean that, I've seen it. You know, selling your $55,000 F-150 is much easier when it has a very perfect, clean Carfax. People always ask for that nowadays. Our generation has been conditioned to ask for the Carfax, and we all do. And if there's any blemish on it whatsoever, well, that's huge negotiating power, unfortunately, for the buyer of that vehicle. So to me, it's worth it to spend a little bit of cash out of pocket to prevent the headache come trade-in or resale time. You tell me what you think. Now, it's important to note that the vehicles that are sold, of course, with all this damage, they're being sold as is. As is, meaning they're not going to promise any kind of repair or additional work to bring this vehicle back to its original state, of course, right? That doesn't mitigate or nullify the manufacturer warranty. You're still going to have that, of course, on the vehicle if it was a new vehicle purchase or you're within warranty on a used vehicle. So that's just something to keep in mind. And at first glance, the GMC dealership has taken a lot less of the brunt. I'm talking maybe a handful per hood is what I'm spotting anyway. This one does have busted windshield, unfortunately. But overall, like this one, I'm talking maybe 7. 7 is what I'm seeing on here. So interesting, they really did take the bulk of it over there. Good sizable one there, one in the middle. Kind of wild. For me, this is an extra sad sight. I actually really do like this GMC Sierra 1500 AT4X with the 6.2 liter V. I like this truck a lot. This one here, it appears maybe a dozen on the hood. No broken glass anyway that I'm seeing at first glance. The side seemingly is pretty good. Like this one here is one that I would offer on. You know, it isn't wildly overdone, wildly beat up with hail, no broken glass, no broken tail lights. This here is fixable within reason. Maybe even $1,500 or less, you can take care of the bulk of this one here. So if they did offer a substantial discount to make it worth their while, why not? I've poked at the Cadillac Escalade IQs here before because of their astronomical price tags. We're $160,000 plus on this vehicle. Let's see if spending $160,000 gets you stronger material. And well, the answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, is no. Broken glass up top too for the windshield. We talk about it plenty on the channel, but taking out insurance claims and doing total losses on vehicles like this is what is making our premiums rise across the board. So we all pay into insurance, this giant pot of money, and as people are buying these hugely expensive vehicles here and then crashing them totally and taking out claims, well, we all pay the price a little bit. And what that takes the form of slight increases year after year, sometimes substantial increases depending on where you live. I'm kind of interested to see how this BMW X5 fared, because growing up, I've always heard that, you know, these are a little bit more over-engineered when it comes to the aesthetics and the exterior, and the body panels are, what I'm told, are a little bit more robust, a little stronger. And perhaps that might be the case because these dings here are pretty minimal, and hopefully, maybe you can't even see them. They're pretty small. And when you look at the neighboring vehicles, well, they're a lot more prominent on like the Ford panel over here on the Expedition. But the BMW with its thicker paint too, Germans are notorious for having thicker paint on these BMWs, which I think that adds, of course, to the rigidity of the panels. And well, the Ram 2500 here didn't get any tough break. 3500, excuse me. Got plenty of pretty large dimples on this hood here. No glass damage anyway, that's nice to see. And on the GMC Sierra 3500 next to it, man, these hoods are just not absorbing anything. Check it out. A pretty huge dent there from a baseball hit. And a few more, just slightly smaller on this side there. I'm about to say now may not come out the right way, but seeing damage like this take place really just within an instant. The storm came through, was here and gone within 15 minutes, really, not even. So for people like you and I, perhaps, we spend so much time obsessing over vehicles. I know I do, and I have my entire life, really. But seeing stuff like this happen really is a nice reminder that they are just things at the end of the day, okay? It's not worth investing so much of your time, effort, and resources into. And lean on your insurance, of course. That's why all of us are required to have insurance. Be sure to have insurance, and be sure to go through a reputable shop come time for repair if you need it. I'm actually pretty interested to see what this $9,500 off discount on this GMC Yukon XL turns into after assessing all the hail damage here. What do you think? Well, ladies and gentlemen, as luck should have it, we have a vehicle here to compare to. We have all of our new vehicle inventory, newer vehicles here with a little bit cheaper aluminum and body panels here compared to the old trusty here, 1990 GMC Jimmy, which a lot of steel involved in this. But even this took a fair amount of damage. So this hailstorm here, I mean, it was inevitable. It was inevitable what you were driving. You were gonna take some dings. You got a pretty sizable one right there, a pretty big one here in the door, assuming it wasn't already there, of course. But all in all, not as many. We're talking, I mean, these ones that took place were obviously due to large baseball size examples. Smaller dimple here. Overall, not terrible by comparison. I don't think anybody buys a Subaru with the idea of it being extremely overbuilt or robust. You buy them because they're affordable more often than not. Here we have a Subaru Forester, maybe a dozen pretty good dings on the hood there, a handful up on the door. This one here is a good example of just being almost too close to that body line, making that a tremendous pain for any PDR shop. This one here, this will require paint as it chipped through the clear coat and through the primary paint, as you see. Well, the list goes on. Every single Subaru here has very similar damage. Maybe a dozen or so dings on the hood, with a few of them being maybe golf ball size. To be fair, in places like Cheyenne, Wyoming here, having a number of little dents and dings all around your vehicle is pretty common, right? It's a common sight here in town, really throughout the entire state. Some people actually wear it like a badge of honor. So many times this is pretty common. So in a place like Cheyenne, Wyoming, these vehicles here, if they get offered up with a hail sale or a discount sale, because of the hail, they'll likely move quick. Because a lot of people here, they don't care so much about that. And well, I popped over to the Nissan dealership, and you can tell that the storm rolled through much closer to the dealerships over there, the Ford dealership, the Toyota dealership. And the further we get this way, GMC was just over there, right next door. So the further we get this way, the less damage there was. You know, obviously there's still a handful of stray golf balls and baseballs that flew out this direction too, but overall a lot less damage by comparison. These really only have a handful throughout the entire vehicle, comparatively, of course, to the Fords and Toyotas over there that had dozens just on the hood and on the roof and broken glass. So much less over here. And I gotta admit, I'm actually kind of sad seeing the old Heritage Edition Nissan Z here with a few bumps on it. You see this bad Johnny right there. You know, all this is fixable. It's all fixable, of course. It's just an added headache. Not to mention, this hit the entire city of Cheyenne. So we have a lot of independent, a lot of individuals out there who are trying to get their vehicles replaced. And what does that do? That creates a backlog in the repair shops. All the dent repair shops here in town are going to be hugely backlogged, and that just makes it so these are going to be sitting, waiting idle for even longer to get the necessary repair before a sale, which is only going to increase the likelihood of this dealership offering some sort of hail sale, right? There's a higher chance of that happening because, well, they don't want to wait 3, 4, 5 weeks just to get this thing fixed. Guys, seriously, what kind of discount would you actually buy it at right now? It doesn't have a ton of damage on it, maybe a handful of little dings on it, that one sizable one on the other side there. They were trying to sell it with a $7,300 off discount from its $61,000 MSRP here. You tell me, with the additional little character blemishes on it now, what kind of discount would you expect? And really, what kind of discount would you buy this Heritage Edition Z for now? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I might just be a believer in the Nissan Armada now. This is the all-new Nissan Armada here. This one's a platinum trimmed example, built out of Japan. And I'm actually not seeing, at least at first glance, I'm not seeing, well, we got a couple tiny ones out back here. I'm sure there's a few more, but overall, very minimal damage by comparison. So these are perhaps built to a little bit higher of a standard, maybe a little bit thicker material, who knows. But it is crazy, literally just a half mile up the road from Toyota and from Ford, we have Chevy down here, and they have minimal damage. So you can tell, just again, further we got this way, far less damage. And well, Chevy here should be thanking their lucky stars by comparison. Perhaps the easiest way to put it is, if you have a $500 deductible and you have about $900 worth of damage, it behooves you just to pay cash out of pocket. And 9 times out of 10, if you're paying cash and you tell the shop that, they're gonna cut you a little bit of slack, right? They're gonna cut you a little bit better of a deal to make that happen for you. So pay out of pocket if it's just a little bit more than your deductible. And over here at Hyundai, just across the street from the Ford dealership, as you'd imagine, we're getting very similar size damage and dents over here. Look at this, right through the paint. That blows my mind a little bit. This one here, a bunch of damage up top of the roof, giant bash there in the windshield of this particular one. It really is a shame to see. Guys, let me use this as an opportunity to really give a shout out to Ken Garf here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Yeah, I don't think they're notorious for offering the best deals. I'll shoot you straight, they don't. However, I personally have always enjoyed working with them, and if you show them evidence of other dealers giving better discounts and deals, they will work with you. It just requires you to do a little bit more homework, okay? I want to give a shout out to them because out of all the dealerships here in my hometown, they support me doing this, right? They support me going onto their dealership lots and complaining about dealership greed, their sales tactics in general, not just theirs, but in general, dealership sales tactics, and just kind of continue to beat the drum on many of these topics, right? Oftentimes painting dealerships in a negative light, but they support me. They allow me to do this, and they welcome it. So I hope that's worth something to you guys, the fact that they allow that to happen. So if you are trying to buy a hail damaged vehicle, please pick up the phone, give Ken Garf Ford, Ken Garf Toyota, and Hyundai Ford, Toyota, Hyundai here in Cheyenne, Wyoming, give them a call. Please let them know I sent you. See if you can work out a deal on one of these vehicles. As I'll wrap up the video there, as always, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune into my videos. If you appreciate this type of content whatsoever, I do respectfully request that you please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a ton, and I promise you it doesn't go unnoticed. Really, I know today's video is a little different from what I normally provide you guys, but I think it's a really good example of what can happen. The worst of what can happen when Mother Nature shows her ugly hand. In dealerships, they'll work through it. They're gonna get through it, and that's why they have insurance, especially here in Wyoming. They have hail insurance. They're gonna work through it. And really, it does present an opportunity for you and I to capitalize on it and get a great deal on a vehicle with a couple bumps and bruises on it. So thanks for watching as always. Until next time.